A viewer left a comment on this channel that honestly stopped me for a moment. He said he started investing late. He is 52. He has less than $10,000 saved. Sometimes he can only invest $10 to $50 from a paycheck. And because quarterly dividends feel too slow, he wanted to know if weekly or monthly dividend ETFs could help him catch up. And if you are in your 40s, 50s, or even early 60s, I need you to listen carefully. Because this is not just one viewer's problem. This is the retirement problem millions of people are quietly carrying. You work hard, you have bills, maybe you have debt, maybe you helped your kids, maybe life happened. And now you look at your retirement account and think, how am I supposed to catch up from here? So today, we are not doing another generic best monthly dividend ETFs video. This video is different. We are going to answer the real question. If you started late, have less than $10,000 saved, and can only invest small amounts, can monthly or weekly dividend ETFs actually help you? Or do they just feel good while quietly keeping you stuck? And by the end of this video, you should understand 3 things. First, why weekly and monthly dividends feel so attractive when you are behind. Second, which ETF buckets are actually worth studying. And third, the realistic plan I would think about if I were starting late and trying to build retirement with a small account. Now let's be honest. The reason weekly and monthly dividend ETFs are so tempting is not just math. It is emotion. When your portfolio is small, quarterly dividends can feel almost invisible. You wait 3 months, then maybe you see a few dollars land in your account. And instead of feeling motivated, you feel embarrassed. You think, is this all I'm getting? So when someone says, this ETF pays every month, or this one pays every week, it feels better. It feels like progress. It feels like your money is finally doing something. And I understand that. There is nothing wrong with wanting to see cash flow. But here is the uncomfortable truth. Payment frequency does not automatically mean better retirement income. A fund that pays weekly is not automatically better than one that pays monthly. A monthly dividend ETF is not automatically better than a quarterly dividend ETF. And a high yield does not automatically mean you are winning. The first question should never be, how often does it pay? The first question should be, where is the money coming from? Because if the income is coming from strong companies, real dividends, treasury bills, or a well-managed option strategy, that is one thing. But if the income is coming from your own capital being slowly returned to you, or from a strategy that keeps destroying the share price over time, then you are not really building retirement. You are just being paid back with your own money. And that is dangerous for a late starter. Because when you start late, you do not have the same room for mistakes that a 25-year-old has. A young investor can make a bad move, recover, and still have 30 or 40 years ahead. But if you are 50 or 55, a bad high-yield trap can set you back in a way that is very hard to repair. So before we talk about ETF names, let's run the small account math. Let's say you have $10,000 invested. If your portfolio yields 4%, that is about $400 a year. That is around $33 a month. If it yields 6%, that is about $600 a year. That is around $50 a month. If it yields 10%, that is about $1,000 a year. That is around $83 a month. Now, $33, $50, or $83 a month is not useless. It can pay a small bill. It can help with gas. It can make you feel like your portfolio is alive. But we have to be honest, that is not a retirement plan by itself. And this is where many people get trapped. They see that $10,000 at a normal dividend yield does not produce enough income. So they start chasing extreme yields. They see funds paying 12%, 15%, 20%, or even more, and they think, that's what I need. But a high yield can be a warning sign, because if a fund pays you 15%, but the share price keeps falling, you may feel rich in monthly payments while your real wealth is shrinking. That is why the goal is not just income. The goal is quality income plus some growth plus protection from doing something desperate. So let's break this into buckets. Not random ETFs, buckets. Because the question is not just, which ETF pays me? The better question is, what role should this ETF play in my late start retirement plan? The first bucket is dividend growth. This is where a fund like SCHD comes in. SCHD is not a monthly dividend ETF. It pays quarterly. So if you only care about frequency, you may ignore it. But that would be a mistake. SCHD tracks the Dow Jones US Dividend 100 Index, and the idea is to focus on companies with stronger dividend quality, stronger fundamentals, and a history of paying dividends. The current expense ratio is low at 0.06%, and the 30-day SEC yield is around 3.25%. That means if you put $10,000 into it, the rough annual income at that yield would be around $325 a year, or about $27 a month if you mentally spread it out. That may not sound exciting, but SCHD is not designed to be a weekly paycheck machine. It is more of a dividend growth anchor. The reason people like SCHD is not just because of today's income. It is because they are hoping the income can grow over time while the portfolio also has a chance to appreciate. Now, another dividend growth ETF to study is DGRO. DGRO currently has a low expense ratio of 0.08%, and its 30-day SEC yield is around 1.97%. That is lower income than SCHD, but it is more of a broad dividend growth style fund. Then there is VIG, Vanguard's Dividend Appreciation ETF. VIG is also not high yield. Its expense ratio is 0.04%, and the 30-day SEC yield is around 1.53%. These are all quarterly paying dividend ETFs. So here is the point. Dividend growth ETFs may not give you the biggest payout today, but for late starters, they can help with quality, discipline, and long-term dividend growth. They are not exciting, but sometimes boring is exactly what protects you from blowing up your account.
The second bucket is monthly income. This is where ETFs like JEPI, JEPQ, and DIVO come in. JEPI is the JP Morgan Equity Premium Income ETF. It pays monthly and uses an equity income strategy that includes options. The attraction is obvious: monthly income, a much higher yield than many traditional dividend ETFs, and a strategy that tries to provide income while still keeping some exposure to stocks. As of the latest fact sheet I checked, JEPI's 30-day SEC yield was 9.78%. The expense ratio is generally listed at 0.35%. So if you had $10,000 invested and used that 9.78% yield as a rough example, that would be about $978 a year, or about $81 a month. That feels much better than $27 a month. But there is a trade-off. JEPI is not the same as owning the S&P 500 directly, because option income strategies can limit upside when the market runs hard. So JEPI can be useful for income, but you need to understand what you are giving up. Then there is JEPQ. JEPQ is also from JP Morgan, but it is tied more to NASDAQ-style exposure, so it leans more toward growth and tech compared to JEPI. The 30-day SEC yield on the fact sheet I checked was 12.70%, and the expense ratio is also generally listed at 0.35%. On a $10,000 investment, 12.70% would be about $1,270 a year, or roughly $106 a month. That sounds attractive. But again, you need to respect the risk. JEPQ can give higher income, but it also has more NASDAQ-style exposure. That means it may feel better in strong tech markets, but it can also be more sensitive when growth stocks struggle. So I would not treat JEPQ like a safe savings account. It is still an equity income fund with market risk. Then there is DIVO. DIVO is another monthly income ETF. It has an expense ratio of 0.56%. It holds a smaller portfolio of equity holdings and uses a covered call style approach. According to its fact sheet, DIVO is designed to offer monthly income and seeks income from both dividends and option premiums. That is important because DIVO is not just dividend stocks. Part of the income comes from the option strategy. The benefit is that it can provide monthly cash flow. The trade-off is that covered call strategies can give up some upside because the fund may not fully participate when stocks run sharply higher. So when I look at monthly income ETFs, I would not say, this one is the best, buy it. I would say, understand the job. JEPI may be more balanced income. JEPQ may offer more growth exposure but more NASDAQ risk. DIVO may be a more moderate covered call dividend approach. But none of them magically solves retirement if the account is still tiny. The third bucket is weekly income.
And this is where we need to be careful. Weekly payouts sound amazing. If you are struggling, the idea of seeing income every week feels comforting. But weekly income ETFs are not all the same. Some are cash-like Treasury bill funds, some use options, some may use more complex strategies, and some may look exciting on the surface but carry risks many investors do not fully understand. One example is WEEK, the Round Hill Weekly T-bill ETF. WEEK invests in 0 to 3-month U.S. Treasury bills and seeks to pay weekly distributions. Its expense ratio is 0.19%, and it launched in 2025. This is very different from a stock dividend ETF. It is more of a cash-like Treasury bill income product. So the good part is that it is not trying to chase stock market upside. It is trying to provide weekly income from short-term Treasury bills. But the trade-off is also clear. This is not going to compound like a growth ETF over decades. The yield will depend heavily on interest rates. If rates go down, the income can go down. And the fund itself says weekly distributions are expected but not guaranteed. So WEEK may help someone who wants frequent income from a cash-like bucket, but I would not build an entire retirement plan around weekly payouts. Another fund to understand in this area is SGOV. SGOV is the iShares 0 to 3-month Treasury bond ETF. It does not pay weekly, but it is a useful comparison because it also focuses on very short-term Treasury bonds. Its expense ratio is 0.09%, and the 30-day SEC yield was around 3.55% when I checked. So on $10,000, that would be around $355 a year, or about $30 a month. Again, not life-changing, but it can be useful for cash, safety, and short-term income. The problem is when investors confuse cash-like income with retirement growth. A Treasury bill ETF can help protect money, but it will not usually build wealth like a stock ETF over long periods. And that brings us to the fourth bucket, the growth bucket. This is the part many late starters do not want to hear. If you are 52 with less than $10,000 and you only buy income ETFs, you may feel progress faster, but you may also reduce your long-term growth. This is why a core growth ETF still matters. Something like VOO or VTI may not give you exciting income. VOO's 30-day SEC yield is around 1.00%, and its expense ratio is 0.03%. That means $10,000 in VOO at that yield may only produce around $100 a year in income. That is almost nothing from a cash flow point of view. But VOO is not an income machine. It is a growth engine. So the question is not, should I choose dividends or growth? The better question is, how do I balance income that keeps me motivated with growth that gives my portfolio a chance to become meaningful? Because here is the brutal truth. At $10,000, the ETF choice matters, but your contribution rate matters even more. If you are investing $25 every 2 weeks, that is roughly $650 a year. That is good. It is honorable. It is a start. But it will not suddenly turn $10,000 into retirement income overnight. So the real plan for a late starter has to include more than just picking the right ETF. It has to include cash flow. That does not mean you need to become a millionaire entrepreneur. It may mean reducing bad debt. It may mean finding $100 more per month. It may mean working overtime for a season. It may mean building a small side income. It may mean selling unused things. It may mean getting serious about the gap between what comes in and what goes out. Because if the account is small, the ETF is not the main engine yet. You are the engine. And that may sound discouraging, but it is actually empowering because you cannot control the market. You cannot control whether JEPI yields 9% or 7% next year. You cannot control whether JEPQ has a strong year or a weak year. You cannot control interest rates. But you can control the system around your money. You can control whether you chase risky yield. You can control whether you reinvest dividends while you are still working. You can control whether you use income ETFs as motivation, not as an excuse to avoid growth. So if I were starting late, here is the framework I would study. Not personal financial advice, just an educational framework. First, I would not chase the highest yield. If a fund is paying a massive yield, I would ask, what is the cost? Is the share price falling? Is the income sustainable? Is the fund using options? Is there return of capital? Is this income taxable in a way I understand? Second, I would keep some growth. Even if I love dividends, I would not ignore growth completely. A late starter still needs the portfolio to grow, not just pay small checks. Third, I would use dividend growth ETFs for quality. Something like SCHD, DGRO, or VIG can help build a dividend foundation. They may not pay monthly, but they can be useful for long-term dividend discipline. Fourth, I would use monthly income carefully. A fund like JEPI, JEPQ, or DIVO can make the portfolio feel more active. It can produce income more often. It can help some investors stay motivated, but I would not put everything there without understanding the trade-offs. Fifth, I would treat weekly income as a tool, not a miracle. A weekly Treasury bill ETF like WEEK may be interesting for a cash-like income bucket, but weekly payment does not automatically mean wealth creation. And sixth, I would reinvest the income while I am still working. This is very important. If you are still working and you do not need the dividend income to survive, reinvesting can help the portfolio grow faster. The mistake is taking every small dividend out too early, then wondering why the account never becomes big enough.
Now, let's bring this back to the viewer who said he is 52 with less than $10,000.
Can dividend ETFs help?
Yes, but not in the way many people think. They can help you stay motivated. They can give your portfolio a sense of movement. They can create small cash flow. They can help you learn how income investing works, but they cannot magically replace years of missed savings. And that is not meant to shame anyone. Life happens. People lose jobs. People raise families. People get divorced. People deal with medical bills. People carry debt. People start late for reasons nobody sees. So if that is you, I do not want you to feel hopeless, but I also do not want you to fall for the lie that a weekly dividend ETF is going to rescue everything by itself. The real answer is a combination. You need some income, you need some growth, you need to avoid bad risk, you need to increase contributions if possible, and you need to protect yourself from desperate decisions. Because when people feel behind, they often take the exact risks that make them fall even further behind. They chase crypto at the top. They chase high-yield funds they do not understand. They day trade. They buy options. They jump from one hot ETF to another. And then they lose the one thing they could not afford to lose: their base.
So my message is simple. If you started late, do not panic. But also, do not pretend frequency is the same thing as freedom. A monthly payment can feel good. A weekly payment can feel even better. But the real question is your portfolio becoming stronger? Is your income sustainable? Is your capital protected? And are you still giving yourself a chance to grow? That is the real retirement conversation. So here is my simple way to think about it. Dividend growth ETFs are for quality. Monthly income ETFs are for cash flow. Weekly Treasury bill ETFs are for frequent income and cash-like stability. Broad market ETFs are for long-term growth. And your contribution rate is the fuel that makes the whole thing matter. Because a $10,000 portfolio can start the journey, but it is not the destination. Your job is to keep building the base until the dividends become meaningful. If this topic hits home for you, drop a comment below with 2 things: your age, and whether you care more about monthly income, weekly income, growth, or debt reduction right now. Because I want to make more videos around the real problems late starters are facing, not just the ETFs everyone is already talking about. And if you want me to do a deeper breakdown of monthly dividend ETFs for late starters, I can do that next. Just remember, I am not a financial advisor. This video is for education only. Every ETF has risk. Dividends are not guaranteed. Yields change. And your personal situation matters. But if you are starting late, you are not alone. You may need to move differently. You may need to be more careful. You may need to focus harder on cash flow. But it is not too late to build something better than where you are today. This is Real Wealth Hack, and I'll see you in the next one.